This video is based upon my article that I posted on Substack yesterday. I have two Substack publications, one under my own name, one under my sports publication name. It's called Cakes, Swings, and What Else. I usually post on it on LinkedIn, on my newsletter. So consider giving it a follow or subscribe if you want to. But this article is from my main page, and that is under my name, R. Sharma. And it is about the aestheticization of life and the loss of uniqueness. And I know you probably have an idea what might be coming. Probably have seen it all around you these days. But I just tried to articulate my thoughts on it, and I tried to give some explanations on some things. I'm not a psychologist, I'm not a sociologist, but at least I've studied some of those things, and this is mostly based on those ideas and those theories and just a general observation of things around us and the things that we see online, which is probably most of the environment that we surround ourselves with. So here's how my article goes. Ever since the dawn of time for the human race, one thing has been clear: that humans thrive in groups and are their weakest selves when standing alone. Community living and shared experiences have protected us from vulnerability and the predatory forces of nature, or even others of our own race. It is what has sustained us as a species and has allowed us to develop ourselves in the way that we have. If you look back in history, people have always wanted to stay together. They've always wanted to band together. They've always wanted to go together because it means that we have a higher chance of survival. We have the opportunity to help each other and help ourselves. And it's the popular saying that it takes a village to raise a child. It's somewhat based on this, that humans are social animals, and humans are their best selves when they are in a community, and that is true. That is true. Because we need community to uplift us. We need a community to make us not feel lonely, not alone, but lonely, and not as in a depressive way, but as in not feeling vulnerable and not having to fight and face the fears and challenges of life alone in that way. So standing out from any group historically has meant that a personality, not a person, faces criticism and the threat of exile because he, she, or they want to be seen as different. And as I continue to go on in my article's introduction, standing out, I claim, is a vulnerable position, because when you stand out, you are at risk. When in the times bygone, in centuries past, if you stood out from your group, it would mean that you would be exiled, you would be thrown out of the group, and you probably would face death. You probably would have to fight against nature and wild animals and all other things, even other humans by yourself. But today, if you try to stand out, you not just have that fear, because we always fear other humans, because they might just kill us, but also that we might get exploited in some way or the other, because the forms of exploitation are several these days. You just can't even count them. There is a fear of perception through social media, through all forms of digital media, whatever they are. There's a fear of perception that we develop. There's an insecurity of our bodies and also our identities. We all fear standing out from people because of all these fears. We fear being eccentric, we fear being different from others, and we fear being, and as I add on, Father Time has consistently proven to us that the most influential of personalities have always been the ones who dare to stand out, and no matter what punishment they face, no matter how life treats them or how the community treats them, the most notable, the most memorable figures from history are those who dare to stand out from others, who tried to be different and who tried to prove their own point, go their own way, despite no one accompanying them or even just a few people siding with them. Whether they were good or bad, it doesn't matter. But they are remembered. They're always recognized because they dare to stand out. Now, the morality of those people is not the question of this video. That is not the object of this discussion. The most recognizable people, personalities from history, are the ones who have dared to stand out. Then the cardinal sin of wanting to be different is perhaps not so malified as to deem a person undesirable or even undeserving. And those who dare to do so might just go from being undesirable to undeniable, just like Cody Rhodes did, but yeah. But if that is all true, it should also be true that most people try to be unique and stand out. And in a way they do, or at least they desire to. Because everyone said that I'm different and I'm unique and I don't want to be like anyone else. But in the end, the reality that we see is a lot further from the truth. Because we all end up being like each other. We all end up falling in some genre or in some other category. And when we die, we are either not remembered as anything or we are remembered as one of something. One of this kind. One of this kind of a person. We aren't remembered as one in a million, because one in a million is, after all, some very few unique people. And that is the law of nature. That is the way things will always be, because people so unique are hard to come by, no matter what times we are living in. But at least we can try to be unique in a way that sets us apart from most people, or that makes us be remembered in a way that we're not nobodies. And we all try to do that, but these days, especially in the last 5 or 10 years, the reality that we have been living has realized us. It has put us in genres, it has put us in categories and subcategories, and it has meant that the people are no longer seen as individuals, and they are often labeled and termed as this kind of a person. Even if they are not, they are labeled as that kind of a person, because people like to put people within these definitions, within these boundaries and these limits that they've learned through their education, through their experiences, or through the trends or buzzwords that they've learned from online, from social media. And yes, that will be a large part of this discussion. As I go on in my article, we live in a world where we are more affected by technologies and the pseudo-realities they create, to the point that our thinking processes are affected by the prejudices, trends, and aesthetics created on a superficial understanding of certain people's unique experiences. The result is, thus, an entire generation, or at least a large fraction of it, basing their identities over buzzwords, therapy speak, exaggerated assumptions, and other trends of social media, which also happens to have had replaced traditional media, in attempts to either look eccentric or fit the mold somewhere one can't find through their own experiences. Now, before social media got so big, in the past few years, in the past decade even, people's personalities were based on their own experiences and what they had read and what they had been educated by and how they had lived their lives. But now, because social media is there, and yes, of course, because of capitalism, which plays a large part in it, we don't get to experience life as much. We don't have as many personal experiences. We rather live those experiences through our digital devices and not actually living those by ourselves. So our personalities are based on the experiences that we learn from others, and by matching or relating a few traits that those others who have lived those actual experiences, and then basing our personalities on those things. But they're not based on our actual experiences. So social media becomes so pervasive in our lives that people become passive observers to their own life by constantly stimulating themselves with creative displays of others' lives, no matter if they're perfect or not. And they become audiences to their own lives rather than performers. We start living our lives in third person rather than actually living our lives in first person. It's like saying The Rock does this, The Rock does that, and not actually being The Rock. But that's not the best of examples. So those who dare to stand out and perform therefore suffer from one of two fates. Either they go viral and gain a huge following, those that we see as the trendsetters, or they are banished from the gates of Attentionville, in the same vein as being exiled in yesteryears. So those who don't gain the following, those who don't go viral, they don't get any attention at all on social media. Because the thing with social media is either you will be so different that you will create a fan base of your own, or you will fit the mold of the personalities and the molds created by social media so well that you will automatically gain a following because of the people who are actually interested in that thing, or who rather relate or identify with that thing. I mean, social media, the intention of creating social media was not to make you consumers. It was to connect with the people we already knew and find others of similar interests. And in the beginning stages, it was a third place that you went to catch up with what everyone was doing and chat with some, find some others, and then log out. But it started changing towards the late 2000s, when we got to the 2010s and then the 2020s, when it started becoming more of a content machine. But even then, it was a well agreed upon social precedent that computers were just part of our lives and not our lives itself. Now, as the 2010s came about, it started becoming more and more a social norm that not having a hobby related to computers or the internet meant that the person might just be lame or a loser. But that was understandable at that time because technology was still new and we were still coming to understand how we would react. And even then, we knew that at some levels what actually might happen for the development of technology, and it has been proven in many ways right. But even then, the reality isn't the same today. Sitting in your mom's basement and trolling is no longer something that only losers do. And they can't be shamed for that because that is what most people do these days. And to keep viewers engaged in such content requires the content to be eccentric enough to give them dopamine shocks, but also create a new subgenre of it so that the viewers keep consuming the same slop. And you can see the recent examples of popular political and entertainment figures having their face swabbed onto popular memes, to make even more memes. Now, what that does is, even though we might find it funny, we do react to it and we give them all the likes, we make those memes trending. But those who benefit from that are those who have already bet upon, who have claimed their stake on it. And they benefit from the same when we feed more and more interactions into those same things. So what happens is that those people benefit from the divisive memes and trends online based on the controversial events that we choose we actively, consciously choose to engage in. And you can understand that spreading hate on social media is a very profitable business for many people. And indeed, capitalism has a huge role in creating these aesthetics of these shallow products or culturally important topics, as we see that companies or brands hire people, social media people, to popularize these products or aesthetics through their social media accounts, and then they shove those down our throats so that we consume even more. But it is also a choice from our side that we choose to partake in those trends, in those shallow products. It's a choice to buy the newest cup that doesn't even. It is a choice to buy the newest cup that isn't even of much use to us, and isn't even objectively a good product that we would require it. It is a choice to buy the merch that isn't even objectively good just because we like the character or we like the person that is on it. And therefore it is not a surprise that there is a loss of personality in people. And I would venture to claim that the reason that the dating pool and the job market sucks these days is because of this very same reason, or at least one of the reasons for the same this is. Because there is a loss of personality and uniqueness. So the ones who succeed are usually the ones who dare to actually live their lives instead of only wishing to. And this is going to be proven right. It is going to develop as more of a radical position when AI and VR become an even larger part of our lives. You see all these people who constantly consume AI, who constantly use it, not being conscious of it, or even if after being conscious of it, they use AI to the level that their own brains stop functioning in the normal way. Their creativity decreases, and their self-expression, which is one of the most important things in a person's life. And when creativity, self-expression, and art isn't a huge part of a society, you can tell that that society is doomed. Because there is no culture without art. Without culture, there is no society. So there is no society without art. And if your art is based on learned behavior, is based on preset and pre-molded aesthetics and genres and categories and algorithms that AI makes its so-called art on, you can tell that that society would ultimately not have much time ahead of it. And the ones who are truly going to succeed are the ones daring to go against the norm today, who are actually meeting people and touching grass instead. What might happen to the others is wouldn't be good, but it might just be the fate that humans suffered at the end of Steven Spielberg's AI, the 2001 movie. There were no humans left, and there were no proof that what humans actually did or looked like or how they existed on this planet. And that is a really sad, depressing thing. How do we win this war against creativity and self-expression and uniqueness and identity and art? When the molds are already set, the ones who are going to stand out are those who either break them or those who fit perfectly. If you need to break the mold and be unique, you need to have more experiences. You need to get out of your head and get into the game. You need to create art unapologetically, no matter how bad that is. You need to normalize normal again before it is a luxury that only the rich can afford. And it will be the reality if we stay on the same track as a society. In fact, this is what I'm gonna do now. I'm gonna go out and I'm gonna take a walk. Again, I might just plan for my 22nd birthday on coming Saturday. And I'm gonna listen, this time finally, to Living Colors, Cult of Personality. It is time to live. It is time to go out, and it is time to live. It is time to fucking live, baby. It is time to live. So go out and live. Go out and live.